My mom says she just wants the best for me. So why does it feel like I'm drowning every time she calls? I'm 34 years old. Married. Good job. Apartment with more windows than we need. A dog who's way too smart for her own good. From the outside, everything in my life says adult. But when my mom calls, I feel 12 again. It starts with the questions, always the same ones. Did you remember to take your vitamins? Have you talked to your boss about that raise? Are you eating enough greens? When are? You gonna think about kids? Do you want me to help you organize your closet again? I answer politely. I smile through the phone. I tell her everything's fine. Then I hang up and feel like screaming. Because underneath every question is a judgment, a suggestion that I'm not quite enough, not quite responsible, not quite capable. And when I try to say that, even gently, she acts wounded. I'm just asking. You don't have to be so defensive. I'm your mother. I worry. That word. Worry. She uses it like a shield, a license to say anything she wants. And for most of my life, I let her. When I was a teenager, she went through my diary because she was worried I seemed distant. When I was in college, she used to call me 4 times a day, once even during an exam. When I moved in with my now husband, she gave me a list of questions to make sure he's good enough. And when I told her calmly that it wasn't her place, she cried. Told me I was shutting her out. Said she was just trying to stay close. I've spent the last 10 years trying to figure out where the line is between love and control, and I still don't know. Because here's the thing, my mom does love me. Fiercely, she's the kind of woman who will show up at your door with soup if you so much as sneeze over the phone. She'd take a train at 3 a.m. if I said I needed her. She's loyal, attentive, generous, but her love comes with strings. And those strings wrap around my decisions, my relationships, my sense of self. And lately, I've started to feel like I'm suffocating. I've tried boundaries, shorter phone calls, clearer responses, saying no when I mean it. But every time I do, it turns into a fight. She says I'm being cold, ungrateful, that other daughters call their mothers every day. I tell her I need space. She says, from me? And I don't know how to say, yes, especially from you. Every time I set a boundary, she acts like I'm abandoning her. About a year ago, I started therapy. I didn't tell my mom. I knew what she'd say, something between suspicion and insult. What do you even need therapy for? You had a great childhood. You should talk to me instead. I guess now everything is my fault, huh? But I went anyway. And in that quiet little office on the 4th floor of a building that smelled like lavender and recycled air, I started unpacking a truth I'd never said out loud. I love my mom. But I don't like who I become around her. Because here's the cycle. She calls. I answer. She makes a comment that sounds helpful but feels like a jab. I get tense, try to change the subject. She pushes. I push back. She says I'm being dramatic. I end the call. She texts later. I don't know why you're always so angry at me. And I spend the rest of the day feeling guilty, wondering if maybe I overreacted. If maybe I really am too sensitive. If maybe I've turned into some cold, distant version of myself she doesn't recognize. But therapy helped me name it. It's not anger. It's exhaustion. Exhaustion from being the emotional manager of someone who's supposed to be my parent. From having to constantly reassure her that I'm not rejecting her just because I don't want to answer a text within 5 minutes. From being told I owe her unlimited access to my life because she gave me everything. I remember one session my therapist said, "It's okay to disappoint her. It's not your job to keep her comfortable." That line hit like a lightning bolt. Because that's what it always comes back to. Keeping her comfortable. Not telling her the full truth. Not showing her the parts of my life she might disapprove of. Not being honest about how much her words can hurt because I know she'd turn it into a wound she has to heal from. Last Thanksgiving, I told her we wouldn't be coming home. We'd planned a quiet weekend, just the 2 of us. No travel, no drama. She didn't yell. She just got quiet. Then she said, "Okay, well, I guess I'll just be here, alone." It worked better than yelling ever could. I spent the whole weekend on edge. Couldn't enjoy the food. Barely slept. Kept checking my phone, waiting for the guilt bomb. It never came. But the silence was louder. And that's when I realized something brutal. She doesn't need to yell to control me. She just needs to make me feel like I've failed her. She says I've changed, and for the first time, I'm proud of that. In January, I started putting my phone on Do Not Disturb after 8 p.m. A small change. But it felt like a revolution. No more late-night texts. No more phone calls just as I'm sitting down to eat or unwind or exist without commentary. At first, she didn't notice. Then came the missed calls. The 9:12 p.m. call me back. The 9:30 p.m. hello? The 9:45 p.m. I guess you're too busy for me. In the morning, I replied, I'm turning my phone off after 8. If it's an emergency, call twice. She didn't respond. Then 3 days later, just wondering when you became too good to talk to your own mother. It was textbook. Guilt wrapped in concern, shame disguised as confusion. And for the first time, I didn't bite. I didn't write a 3-paragraph explanation. I didn't call to smooth it over. I didn't beg her to understand. I just replied, I'm creating space for my peace. I hope you can respect that. She didn't text for 4 days. My stomach churned with every hour. But when the silence ended, all she said was, fine. And here's what surprised me most. I didn't feel bad. I felt powerful. Not in a cruel way. Not in a I won way. Just grounded. Like I was finally steering my own ship. My therapist calls it reparenting. It's the process of giving yourself the things you didn't get from the people who raised you. Validation, boundaries, protection. And yeah, it's hard. Because it means being the one to break the cycle. It means living with the discomfort of someone else's disappointment. It means choosing your sanity over someone else's approval. I've started doing small things that feel big. Letting calls go to voicemail. Saying, I'm not available right now without apology. Refusing to explain every single decision I make. And every time I do, I hear her voice in my head. You've changed. And yeah, I'm softer with myself. Clearer with others. Less afraid of being misunderstood. I've stopped performing the version of daughterhood she seemed to prefer. The always available, never defensive, eternally grateful little girl. I'm a woman now. And I get to decide what that means. Loving someone doesn't mean losing yourself in them. The next time we saw each other in person was Easter. She hosted, of course. Ham, mashed potatoes, little chocolate eggs in glass bowls. Everything perfect, everything polished. She hugged me tight at the door. Held on a beat too long. I brought a salad. She said, well, at least you're eating greens now. With that trademark half smile that always lands somewhere between affection and disapproval. Normally I'd let it go. Laugh. Shrug. This time I said, that's not a helpful comment. Her smile faded. We sat down to eat. Halfway through the meal, she asked, in front of everyone, so any plans for babies yet? I felt the room shift. All eyes on me. I smiled politely. That's not something we're discussing right now. She said, well, you're not getting any younger. I set my fork down. And for the first time in my life, I said, calmly, clearly, and without apology, please don't bring that up again. It's not your decision. She blinked. A beat of silence. Then she laughed awkwardly and said, well, someone's gotten assertive. I nodded. I've had to. The rest of the meal went on. Later in the kitchen, she cornered me while I was drying dishes. You embarrassed me, she said, low and sharp. I looked at her, really looked at her, and said, you embarrassed me. You asked a deeply personal question in front of people, knowing I wouldn't want to answer it. She opened her mouth, closed it, shook her head. I don't know what's happened to you. I grew up, I said. It wasn't dramatic, no yelling. No yelling! No yelling! No yelling! No yelling. I said, it wasn't dramatic. No yelling. No slamming doors. Just truth. In real time, without fear. That night, my husband asked me how I felt. I said, proud, and really, really sad. Because here's the catch no one tells you. Setting boundaries doesn't always feel good. Sometimes it feels like grieving. Grieving the version of a relationship you wish you had. The one where your mom cheers for you without criticism. Where she trusts your choices. Where she sees you as a whole person, not a project to fix. I cried that night. Not because I regretted anything I said, but because I finally accepted that she may never be able to love me the way I need. And that's a loss, even if it's also a gain. I stopped asking for permission to be myself. After Easter, we didn't talk for almost 3 weeks. It wasn't a declared silence, no dramatic hang-up. No text saying, I need space, just absence. And weirdly, it felt like relief. I hadn't realized how much of my mental bandwidth she took up until I had some of it back. Suddenly, I had more patience with my husband. I wasn't doom scrolling after every tense phone call. I wasn't planning my day around when she might reach out. I was just living. Of course, it didn't last. One Thursday afternoon, she called. No warning, no pretext. I was just at the doctor. They said my blood pressure's been high. I told them I've been under stress lately. I knew what was coming. I said, well, I've been going through a hard time with my daughter. There it was. The hook. She always leads with vulnerability, which makes it harder to push back. I asked, do you want to talk about something specific? I just don't understand why you're being so cold. I'm not being cold. I'm setting limits. But why? Because I need to feel safe in our relationship. And I haven't for a long time. Silence. Then, you think I'm dangerous? I sighed. No, I think you don't understand how your words affect me. And when I try to tell you, you make it about you. It was the most direct I'd ever been. Her voice got small. I guess I'm just the villain now. And there it was again, the story she always writes. If I have needs, she's the victim. If I take space, she's abandoned. If I grow, she's rejected. But this time, I didn't fill the silence. I didn't backpedal or rush to comfort her. I let it be quiet. Eventually, she said, I didn't know you felt this way. And I said, I've been trying to tell you for years. She didn't respond, just said she had to go. And again, that ache came back. Because I'm not trying to push her away. I'm trying to bring us both to a relationship that doesn't hurt me. Where I don't have to twist myself into someone she approves of. Where I don't have to shrink to keep the peace. Where love doesn't mean surrender. She says I've changed. She's right. I've stopped asking for permission to be myself. And once you stop doing that, you start to see how many parts of you are waiting, quietly, for air. I still want my mother's love. I just don't want to be broken to receive it. Last weekend, she came to visit. Not unannounced. We'd scheduled it. Just for the day. Coffee and a walk through the park. No overnight. No pressure. It felt manageable. She rang the doorbell twice. Always twice. I opened the door. And there she was, red lipstick, perfectly ironed blouse, arms already opening for a hug. And for the first time in years, I didn't flinch. We sat on the balcony and drank coffee, talked about the weather. The neighbors, my dog. It was calm, easy, surface level. Then she said, you seem different. I waited. Not in a bad way, she added quickly. Just older, like something in you settled. I smiled. Yeah, I think something did. There was a long pause. Then she asked, are you angry with me? I took a breath. Not anymore. But I was, for a long time. She looked down. Why didn't you tell me? I tried. But you didn't want to hear it. She nodded. Another pause. Then quietly, I didn't know how to love you the way you needed. That stopped me. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't a grand apology. But it was the most honest thing she's ever said. And I could see in that moment that she wasn't the villain I built in my head. She was a woman, scared, proud, aching, trying to hold on to the only version of love she knew. I said, I know. And I'm trying to love you in a way that doesn't hurt me. We didn't cry. We just sat with that. It wasn't healing in the way movies show it. No teary embrace, no soaring music. But it was real. After she left, my husband asked how it went. I said, better than it could have. Harder than I hoped. Because this is the truth about growing up. You don't stop wanting your parents to love you. You just stop needing them to love you at the cost of yourself. And maybe, if you're lucky, they start to meet you halfway.